What's up, everybody? Welcome back to our channel. Today I am going to be talking about what it's like living an unstable life, or I guess a nomad life, whatever you want to call it. Basically, we don't have a permanent home. We just keep traveling, keep moving. And yeah, I'm just gonna dive into the pros and cons, things that I like about it and things that I don't like that much. Because, you know, nothing is perfect, and even if you love something so much, there's still downfalls to it. So I'm going to talk about that today. So if you guys are new to this channel and you haven't seen any other videos and you have no idea what I'm talking about, me and my husband, Angel, we travel all the time. And it's mainly because of his job. During the summer, we're constantly moving to different places. And then during the fall and winter time, it's more just recreational travel that we like to do for ourselves so that we can go see family and go to different places that we've been wanting to go. So yeah, that's kind of our life. We just live on the road. We are actually trying to get a van so that we can live in a van starting this fall time. But we also don't know if that's going to work because we have something up in the air right now. We don't know if we're going to be staying in a certain state that I can't name right now. So a lot is up in the air, and honestly, that's just our life. So basically in like the time of like a week, we find out where we're moving and we have to pack and like be there, not just leave, but actually be at that new place. So we definitely have like a really quick turnaround, and we never know what our plans are. We never know where we're moving to. We have no idea when it's going to come. Sometimes we have a little bit of an idea. Like the start of busy season, we always kind of have an idea that we're gonna be like moving around this time, but we never know where. We can make our guesses, but it's really just up to his company where they're gonna send us. So that's our life. It's very up in the air and last minute moving and just kind of on the road all the time, but it works for us. We're happy, we enjoy it, we enjoy traveling, so we are always down for wherever they send us. I'm gonna start off with the pros. The first thing that I wrote is you get to travel constantly. I love traveling. Me and my husband bonded over that when we first met. He told me that he is always traveling, and I told him that I'm always traveling, and we just knew, we knew that if we ended up staying together, we were going to be that family that travels all the time. And we even talk about it now that, you know, after our like crazy like nomad life for the next couple of years, after that ends and we like think about, you know, trying to have kids and everything, and we actually have kids, we know that we're still going to travel. I mean, it's going to have to decrease a little bit because eventually our kids are going to have to go to school, and that's important to get an education. So, you know, but we definitely will be that family that's always going someplace. And the best thing about traveling is that you get to experience different cultures. Even though we stay in the US for the most part, I mean, every state that you go to, it's so different. People act differently. They're either nicer or a little bit meaner. Or they eat like different food, different spices, they have different accents. Like, honestly, there's so much in America that we haven't seen. And we both have traveled quite a bit, but there's so much that we still need to see and experience. And it's just so interesting to go to a new state, even a state that's like neighboring where we are, and just notice all the differences, like how people go about their day compared to where we were last time. So I really enjoy just noticing that and trying to like dive into that culture and like be one with the city wherever we are. One thing that I love is that we get to make friends everywhere we go, and that means that we have friends all over the world. I literally have friends all over the world right now, and I love it. It's so great because, I mean, this kind of leads into my next thing, where it actually leads into connections for the future. You never know what kind of situation you're going to be in. If you are traveling somewhere and you would like to stay somewhere and you know someone, maybe you can crash with them. It's so great. It can honestly be even connections for like a business. If you're running a business, or if you're just a creative that likes to create things, like knowing people everywhere, it's so great. So great. I also just love to like look at the map and be like, oh my gosh, I know people like all the way across the world, and I know people here and there and there and there. And the more that you travel, you build your friend circle, and it's crazy to see, even with traveling within a year, how many friends you can make around the whole world. So for someone like myself that is building up a business, it actually gives me so many opportunities to spread the word about what I do. Every time we move, I reach out to different creatives in the area or different brands, different companies, and I either try to offer my work to them, or I ask like models or dancers to be a part of my videos. And it's just great, because then the more that you travel, every like state or country that you go to, there's going to be at least a small group of people that know your work and know who you are. And I mean, they're probably gonna like it too. Arizona, for example, I have spent a lot of time in Arizona, just off and on, living there, and I now have such a solid group of creatives there, and they have all helped my brand so much, and they've also just helped me build up my portfolio. And it's just crazy to think that if I wouldn't have stopped there, like where I would be right now, because Arizona was like the kickstart to me reaching out to creatives and really just like putting myself in like a position that I didn't like, where I had to like reach out to strangers and ask them if they'd be a part of something. But now it's getting easier and easier everywhere I go. I'm just like, hey, let me just like send over a text to this person. I just let them know, I'm like, hey, I'm a videographer, I just moved here, I like travel all the time, and this is where I'm stopped right now. I see that you're a model, or I see that you're a dancer, and I like, if you're up to like get some free content, I would love for you to be in one of my videos. Done. And if it's for my brand, then I tell them about my brand. I'll like link my brand so that they can go check it out if it's something that they would want to be a part of. I also think that in a marriage, or even just a relationship, I think that living the nomad life where you're traveling all the time, I think that helps bring you closer together. Just think about it. When we travel, some of us get cranky, and like I feel like you see all sides of a person when you travel with them. And especially when you're traveling constantly, you learn more about the person, and you definitely have some like tough situations and just scenarios where you haven't experienced it before, and so you don't really know what to do, and you just have to work through it. Like me and Angel, I think it was back in March, before all of this like crazy stuff happened in the world, where we were traveling a lot, and that was probably like the first time that he saw like a new side of me, and I kind of saw a new side of him too. But I don't know, he's pretty good at like staying calm. I'm more of the person that like has a lot of different sides, and it's very noticeable. But it was something that we had to talk through, because I was getting super sassy, like not in a great way, and we had to talk through it, and really like through that, we found out that it's because I'm somebody that needs my alone time. And when you're traveling constantly with somebody, you don't really get a lot of alone time. So there's just stuff along the way that you learn about each other, and you just grow closer together. And I feel like the relationship just gets stronger. I also think that traveling and not having a stable home really puts you out of your comfort zone a lot, because you just never know where you're going to end up. Well, if you're living a life like us, where you literally don't know where you're going to end up most of the time, it just puts you in a situation that you are unfamiliar with, and maybe it's the environment that you're unfamiliar with, or like our situation, we're in like a really sketchy neighborhood right now, and that puts most of us in the house out of our comfort zone, because most of us come from nicer neighborhoods. I mean, not like super nice, but just nicer ones where you don't have to be worried about walking to your car. So traveling is going to put you in situations that you're uncomfortable in, and that's just a fact. Which leads me to talk about fears. I personally have to face my fears when I live this type of life, because my top two fears are tarantulas and storms. So when I first moved to the desert, I was kind of nervous, because whenever I thought of Arizona, I was always like, oh my gosh, they have like herds of tarantulas that just like walk across the road. Oh my gosh. But I have never gone hiking in Arizona, because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to run into a tarantula. No. So there are certain situations that I'm put in where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't go do something that I really like unless I want to face my fear. Because I really do enjoy hiking, but I just, during the summer, I mean, I guess you can't really hike during the summer anyway, but I don't know. Like, one of our roommates here asked me and Angel if we'd want to go backpacking in Arizona sometime, and I'm just like, So that's one thing, you know, like just certain places that we travel, even like in the future when we go to more tropical like countries, there's a huge bee outside, and I know it's trying to get inside, and it's probably going to somehow get inside because we have a bee problem here. But another one of my fears is storms, and every place that you go, they have different kind of weather, so therefore they have different kind of storms. And I will always get anxiety every time I see that the weather is bad outside, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what does this mean? What's gonna happen? Like today, the weather hasn't been the greatest. It's been like really windy and cloudy, and all I'm thinking is like, oh my gosh, this place sometimes has tornadoes, and I'm like, what happens if a tornado comes? Because we're on the top 2 floors of this duplex. Like I don't even have a bottom floor to go down to. Like I don't have like a bunker to go to. That's just where my mind goes. So for me personally, I have to face some fears when I travel, but I kind of like it because I feel like over the years I'm actually getting better at handling those fears. I don't think I'll ever... It's so huge. Like the hornets here are so huge. Yes, leave. Thank you. Fears, you're gonna face them, and it's great. It helps you to just, you know, control them a little bit more in the future. So as I said, we usually have like a span of like a week to find out where we're moving, to pack, and then to like drive and get there. And I feel like most people would put that on the con list, but I'm putting it on the pro list because growing up, my family did move quite a bit, but every time we'd find out that we're moving, I would get so excited. I'd be like, oh my gosh, when are we moving? And then my mom would be like, oh, at the end of the month. And I'm like, what? I have to wait a whole month before I move to this new place? So I'm actually kind of liking how we find out last minute where we're moving, because I get super excited and then like I don't have to wait. I can just go, because I don't like anticipating change. Because this leads me to my last pro, is that there is constant change in living the nomad life, and I love that. I love change so much. I feel like the average human doesn't like change, and I feel like that's why most people live their life just like living in one tiny spot in the world and they don't leave, because I think most humans don't like change. They like to be comfortable. They like to have their home with their things in it, and they just like to know their neighbors and their environment, the city that they live in, and they like to do their routine that they do every day, and that's 100% fine. But me, I go crazy if things don't change. If things stay constant, I hate it so much. So I literally need change in my life, or else I'll start to actually feel a little bit depressed. Depression does run in my family, and I do think that that is something, if I don't have change in my life, I like can feel myself starting to get depressed. It's really interesting, but yeah, I need change in my life, or else I start to go a little crazy and I start to get sad and bummed out, and yeah, feelings I don't like. Okay, moving on to the cons list. This is honestly, I feel like it's not that long of a list, because I really don't think that this life is that bad. But there are some things. So the first thing that I put is that you don't have a house to decorate. And me now being like married and, you know, thinking, I'm just getting more into like the wife mode, and that makes me want to like decorate. And I'm also starting to get more into plants, and it's just hard to have those things when you're living the nomad life. But I am excited for when we get our van, because I can decorate that and make that look all cute. But for now, I can't decorate. I do have 4 plants that I travel with now, because I do want to start getting into like plants and learning how not to kill them, but even that, it's hard to move with. Now, since we are always moving, we usually stay in Airbnbs or hotels or whatever, and the setup is not always the greatest. And my main reason for bringing this up is the kitchen. I'm starting to get more into cooking, and just not everywhere you go is going to have a good setup. Like here, they have like 1 pot and like 1 pan. It's crazy. And like 0 counter space, and it's so annoying to cook with. So yeah, just everywhere we move, it's not always the greatest layout. Like our bedrooms, all of us have like, I mean, we have 4 twin beds in here, and we had to shove 2 beds together so that we could actually like sleep in the same bed, so that it's not like we're roommates. it's an interesting layout, and sometimes it's not the greatest. One big thing is that you cannot own that much stuff when you're living a nomad life. I do consider myself a minimalist, so that's not that hard for me. But the hard thing is when you're switching between hot weather and cold weather, because you need clothes for when it's hot outside, but then you also need clothes to keep you warm during like the cold season. So therefore you have to own like more clothes than what like maybe you would want to. And that can get kind of frustrating sometimes, because like the more you own, the more that you have to lug around with you, and it's just, I don't know, it's such a hassle. So it is great that I'm able to make new friends everywhere I go, but the problem is that you make friends and then like a couple weeks later you leave. So it's just kind of sad, because like when we leave a place, we don't actually know when we'll be back, and that can just be kind of sad, you know, because you make friends, good relationships, good connections, and then you leave and it's like, well, see ya, like I don't know when I'll be back, but I'm sure we'll see each other again at some point. Now, as far as family goes, it's really hard for family to visit because they just never know where we are. Because we live a life where we just don't know where we're gonna be next or when we're leaving, it's really hard for family to visit us. And that has been really hard for my mom to wrap her head around, because she is a planner. And she's just always asking us like, when are we leaving? Like, where are we going to? And our answer is just always like, I don't know. She definitely has gotten better at just like understanding that this is our life. Like, it's just very, it's just like, we just never know anything, honestly. And she's finally like gotten used to it and has kind of accepted it. But it is really hard for family to visit us. It's really easy for us to go a long period of time without seeing family. So that's why we try to make it a point during like the winter seasons to go see our family, so that, you know, we can at least see them for a little bit each year. I have two more things. So second to last thing is that ordering things online can be a little bit difficult, because again, we usually stay at Airbnbs or hotels or whatever the case may be. And I just never know if I order something, if it will actually make it to me. So again, it's nice to have like make friends in the area, so that maybe you can like order something and send it to their house and you can just get it that way. But yeah, that can be a little frustrating. The last thing is, every time we move, for the most part, it's going to be by car. And like I've mentioned before, I am not used to road trips yet. They're still kind of like, they give me anxiety sometimes. It's not second nature for me yet like it is for Angel. So that is something that I'm not a huge fan of. But on top of that, it's usually going to be caravan style, because we own my car. That's the only car we own. And then my husband usually has to drive a car for his company. So for the most part, it's always going to be me driving by myself, when I really wish that we could just be in the same car. But I need to learn how to drive long distance on my own and not like worry about it. Alright, well that is the video. Pros and cons of living a very unstable life and not having a permanent home. It's great. Personally, I love it. I would recommend it to anybody. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to people that like stress out about things really easily or like don't like change, because as you can tell with like the pros and cons list, it's a very unstable life. But it's super fun. I am really enjoying it, and again, we're going to be doing this for the next several years until we start thinking of having kids, and then we'll start to like slowly not travel as much until we actually have kids, and then, you know, we'll probably move just like every couple of years after that. But that's just kind of what we've talked about so far. You never know. I mean, again, we just don't know our future plans quite yet, because our life is just right now, the nomad life is just very like unpredictable. So we're just kind of going with the flow. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you guys in our next video.